Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome to my Broncos 2021 season review. Alright, so obviously with all these reviews I'm just going to sort of go through some stats, go through some individual players that I think are important for that team, and then just my overall thoughts on their season. Alright, so to start off with the Broncos, 14th place, 7 wins. Not great, obviously. 14th place, not great, especially for a club the stature of the Broncos, but they're going through a struggling period right now, and that happens to every team. Alright, so, you can see the meters gained, meters conceded per game. It's that's like 250 meters more conceded per game. That's just not good. For anyone that's played the game before, all that extra running in having to sort of get back and cover in defense, that will destroy you in a game. So, it makes sense as to why they lost so many games if they're conceding an extra 250 meters on average per game. They're doing a lot more chasing. 77 tries scored, 121 conceded. Expected from a team that's come in the bottom three. Obviously tries were not their strong suit this season. They definitely scored some great tries though. They scored some really nice, well-worked tries. They just weren't consistent enough with it. And I think that comes down to their lack of combination in their halves and then ultimately at their fullback as well, because they bled in a new fullback, which we'll talk about in a bit. 275 offloads. See, now this is the one where I'm really surprised. If you have that many, I'm pretty sure that's the third most offloads that were in the comp. If you have that many offloads, you should be able to build off the back of that so much. And the fact that they weren't able to build off the back of it shows that their spine was lacking. Because their spine clearly wasn't good enough or wasn't experienced enough to build off the back of it. And I think that was the biggest thing for the Broncos this year. Is just they have solid players across the park. It's just their spine was too inexperienced, or I guess too lazy in some players' cases, which we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, overall, with those stats, it's no surprise that they finished in the bottom three. Obviously, offloads is the one big difference in all of those stats. But yeah, with those stats, it's not surprising that they lost. They were having to cover a lot more in defense with all those with all the extra meters conceded that they had to cover for. Obviously, conceding a lot of tries, as expected. Alright. So for the individuals I want to talk about, firstly we'll talk about the coach, Kevy Walters. I don't know how to feel about Kevy, honestly. I think he's a good coach, but I don't think he's the right coach for the Broncos at this time. I think if you can get Kevy a good team that's sort of built in his image, if that makes, built in his way, built in his vision, then he could be a very good coach and he could take them back to the top 8. But just with the players that he has, I don't know if he can do that in the future. And obviously, in the 2021 season, it showed. I can't remember what the stat was, but I'm pretty sure they chopped and changed their halves the most out of any team in the NRL. In the 2021 season, so that shows that he clearly just had no faith in his spine in any way, because otherwise he would have just stuck to 2 people, kept them in there and said, look, you are my halves for the year and we're going to go. But obviously he had no trust in them. So, I think if he can build that spine in his image and in his vision, then he's definitely a decent coach. I don't think he's a fantastic coach, but I definitely think he's good enough to lead the Broncos to the top 8 with the rest of the players they have in that team, which we'll get onto now. Alright, and the first player is Payne Haas. In my opinion, he's the best front rower in the competition. He's been in a struggling side for the past 2 to 3 years, right? Because the Broncos have been a struggling side for 2 to 3 years, and his numbers, his stats have still just been off the charts. He's a freak of nature. This kid, you could play him at centre and he'd be one of the best centres in the comp, he's big, he's quick, he's strong. He's got a passing game now as well. He's improved his passing game this year. Right? He's got agility, he's got a bit of footwork on him. He's just an absolute, if he was at any other team, then oh man, imagine Payne Haas at the Roosters or the Storm, where they have a full-on system and a full-on proper structure already in play, letting him just run free on it. Oh man, he would be unstoppable, genuinely unstoppable. And with the likes of Adam Reynolds coming in next year, helping to give the team direction, I could see Payne Haas just having an insane season next year because, yeah, he'll just he'll always be in the right place. He'll know what to do because he'll just be told what to do. And yeah, I think he will have an incredible season next year. It's going to be scary. All right. Next, Tony Staggs. Another fantastic young player. Now, if it wasn't for injury, I think he would have been in the Origin mix. Like, definitely in the Origin mix. I'm pretty sure he's New South Welshman, if I remember correctly. Which is, if he is a New South Welshman, it's unfortunate because, they have the likes of Turbo, Teddy, Zach Lomax from the Dragons. There's so many options there for centre for New South Wales. So it is unfortunate for him, but he is more than good enough to be playing at that level. And I think that showed this year. Like, when he came back from his injury, he just picked up where he left off and started just dominating teams again, So, another fantastic player. If the Broncos can build a bit of a system around him, like just on that edge where they can just let him thrive, then he can be an absolutely devastating player for the next 4 or 5 years. Yeah, another fantastic young player. All right, third is Tessie New, or Tessie New. I don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong for anyone that does know how to pronounce it properly. Yeah, another young, fantastic talent. He got brought into fullback this year, and he knocked it out of the park. I think he suffered because his halves didn't know what they were doing. So there were stages where he'd sort of just get the ball in no man's land, and because he's the fullback, because in today's game the fullback is expected to be the magician. They just gave it to this young kid and said, go, make something happen for us, and obviously for a young kid that's a bit difficult. But, he stepped up to the plate many times, right? He had a few errors in him. I know that there were a couple times where he dropped some bombs, he made a few mistakes, but, like I said, he's a young kid. He can grow into a fantastic player if, again, built into the right system, which is, the one thing that the Broncos desperately need. But yeah, another fantastic player. All right, next is BRODIE CROFT. I don't know, it's hard with him, because at the Storm he was overshadowed by the likes of Munster. He was still there when Smith was obviously the number 9 and the captain, right? So I feel like he was always overshadowed, and then because he was at the Storm, everyone just assumed he was a superstar, because that's what the Storm do. They bleed superstars, right? But I think the thing for Croft is he needs that team around him. I think he's a decent player. He's not terrible, but he needs that team around him to help him. He's not the sort of bloke that's gonna, he's not the sort of half that's gonna come into a team and just take charge. That. I don't think that's him. I think he needs that structure in place, that team in place that he can just play off the back of. And again, like I've said, so far during this video, the Broncos don't have that. I'm pretty sure they've let go of him now. I think they've let go of him. I'm not 100% sure. But, yeah, wherever he goes, if he goes somewhere where there's a structure in place, then I could see him doing well. I don't think he's ever going to be a top 3, top 4 half in the competition. But, he's a team that's fighting for the top 8, like a Knights or something, where they do have a system in place. If BRODIE CROFT were to go somewhere like the Knights, I could see him doing decently because they have that structure and he can just play into it and play off the back of it. But yeah, decent player, but he needs that structure, and obviously he didn't get that at the Broncos. So, we'll see where his career goes from there. And lastly, I just want to talk about Anthony MILFORD. What happened to Anthony MILFORD? He was, that 2014, 2015, he was untouchable. He was insane. But it's like he's just given up. It's like he just doesn't care anymore. It's like he's just there to pick up a paycheck. Just watching him play nowadays, it's honestly just upsetting because, he's got so much talent, so much ability, so much skill, and he just doesn't care. He's one of those players that would frustrate the hell out of a lot of people because they'd be sitting there saying, if I had his level of skill, if I had his level of ability, I'd be, busting my ass day in, day out, making sure I improve to, to sort of warrant, my place in this sport sort of thing, but yeah, it seems like he just doesn't care anymore. Or at least this year, the past few years, he just hasn't cared. I don't know what it is. Like maybe he just like needs a change of scenery. Maybe just there's stuff going behind the scenes of the Broncos that he's just not comfortable with, not working out with for him. But yeah, no, like just incredible talent, but he's just given up. He just doesn't care anymore. Obviously now he's going to the Rabbitohs. I don't know how that's going to go. I feel like if Bennett was still at the Rabbitohs, then he'd be able to turn him around into a fantastic player again. But with the new coach, I don't know. I don't know much about their new coach. I know he was their assistant coach, but being the assistant and then going into the top job is completely different. So who knows if he'll be able to rein in Milford and get him back playing the way he was. If he can, then the Rabbitohs will be a force. But yeah, the past few years he's just it seems like he just doesn't care anymore, which is just a shame because he was a fantastic player to watch, right? Just incredible. Like you get the ball in his hands and he'd just create something out of nothing, and that's what rugby league was. Like that's what you loved about league, But yeah, I don't know. He just stopped caring. All right, but yeah. So overall, this season for the Broncos, I predicted them to finish 15th or 14th. I don't remember off the top of my head which one it was. It was 14th or 15th, depending on where I put the Bulldogs. I think I put the Bulldogs 15th, so the Broncos will be 14th. But yeah, I think that was expected by most people. New coach coming in again. They didn't have a spine this year. It was always going to be struggle street for them. And honestly, I think the biggest struggle for them is mentally. Like I think like I said before with Milford, where he just stopped caring. I think a lot of the team has just stopped caring because there is talent in that team. But you watch them this they go behind by a try or two, and that was it. It was game over. It's like, oh, we're just going to give up. We're just going to stop caring. We're just not going to try properly anymore. Which for Broncos fans must have been infuriating. Like, I know as a Bulldogs fan, right? Like, sure, I'd get upset when we'd lose by 20 to 30 points, but the thing that I liked is that at least throughout that whole game, the boys were trying. Like, you could see that the effort was there. Like, it'd be 75th minute. We'd be down by 20 points, 30 points. There's no point it doesn't matter anymore. The game doesn't matter anymore. But you'd still have players, racing across the field, trying to make cover tackles, all this sort of stuff. But yeah, the Broncos just didn't have that this year. And, if Kevy can change that mentality, then, they can once again be a force to be reckoning with. Because, like I've said, they have talent across the board in that team. It's just all getting them on board. And whether Kevy is the man to do that, I'm not sure. Like, I think his philosophies are good, and I think his ideas are good, but just, obviously there's a lot more that goes into coaching than just, oh, excuse me. Yeah, there's a lot more that goes into coaching than just, having good philosophies and having good ideas. You have to be able to portray that to the team, portray it to your players and get them all on side, get them on your side so they play for you. And I don't know if Kevy's that sort of personality. Like, I don't know if he's that sort of, like, it's weird to say, but, like, leader type personality where he can sort of drag people that sort of aren't on his side onto his side. I don't know if he's that guy. Like, if he can get them on side, then yeah, definitely they'll be a fantastic team, but I just don't know if he can. And then, yeah, lastly, again, like I've been saying so far, solid youngsters being bled into the team that if they can build around, they will be a force to be reckoned with for the next few years, right? Next year, I still don't think the Broncos will make the top 8. Right, I think they'll be in that sort of range of maybe like 10 to 13, where they're sort of like, the dream of making the top 8 still sort of there, but I think they'll just sort of fall short at the end. But, yeah, no, look, positive signs for the... I know it seems weird, considering they came 14th, but, it is positive signs. Like I said, the young fellas coming through really strong. Like, they've recruited well. Like, Adam Reynolds going there is a big thing for them. Like, he's going to really organise them and get them sorted. So that's really good for them. And then, yeah, like I've said, if Kevy can get everyone on side and get everyone on his side, then I definitely think he can take them forward. But it's just if he can. And then, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Alright. But yeah, guys, that's my just my Broncos 2021 season review. Let me know if there's anything you think I should add to these reviews, anything you think I should take out. I don't want them to be too long, but, if you want them to be longer, if you want me to talk about more things, I'm happy to. Because like I've said in these videos before, I just love talking about league. So, I'd happily talk for like another 10, 15 minutes about, certain things of the Broncos, like Xavier Coates I left out, for example. Another fantastic player that had a good season that I just, didn't really mention this video. But yeah, let me know if there's things you want me to add, things you want me to take out, if you want me to talk for longer, talk for less time, whatever. I'm happy to do whatever. I just make this for a bit of fun. But yeah, with that said, guys, yeah, take it easy. Have a good one.